Paul here from the Razor's Edge. Today I'm lucky enough to be talking to the legendary guitarist Michael Schenker. Michael.
Yes, Michael speaking.
Hi, it's Paul here from the Razor's Edge. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good, thank you. Pleasure to speak to you, one of my heroes. Nice to speak to you.
Thank you.
Good. So, we've got a little bit of time. I must start with a congratulations on your 50th anniversary. That's quite an amazing milestone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm over the moon with the result, you know. It's just like, it feels like a gift from heaven, you know. If you know the whole story, how it got there, it's unbelievable.
It's quite an amazing story. I've been watching some of the videos on YouTube about the new album, but also some of the history about your music. And I've followed you since the early 1980s, so I know quite a bit. But when you started off playing in before even the Scorpions, when you were learning music and when Rudolph gave you that first Flying V, could you ever imagine how far you'd go?
What was this thing with the Flying V?
I think once I read once that you started learning music because your brother Rudolph had a guitar that you got hold of. Is that right?
Yeah, but it wasn't the Flying V.
Right.
It was Rudolph's 16th birthday, and he got a guitar instead of a motorbike. I was 9 years old, and
okay.
I discovered it was an acoustic guitar. I discovered that guitar in our bedroom, and I was fascinated. Against my brother's wish, not to touch the guitar. I touched it anyway when he went to work, and and so I very quickly discovered the passion for the single string, putting the three notes together, or just like, wow, what, I just kind of never stopped developing from that moment on as a 9-year-old.
Yeah, so when you were 9, 10 and then 15 and recording with the Scorpions doing Lonesome Crow, what were your ambitions at the time? Was it just to make music, or did you have a vision to go further?
Well, it's all my whole life has been a chain of development. I mean, I live in the now. Everything is based on circumstances. I'm a kid in a sandbox. I just love to play and discover. I don't compete. I don't expect anything. I don't compare. I don't look for fame. I never looked for. I never wanted to be anything other than having fun in a sandbox and putting three notes together, creating goose pimples. And I am an artist, a period. And so it was never really, it was always Rudolph's vision, to become Elvis Presley or the Rolling Stones. But for me, it was just like pure fun.
Yeah.
With playing music, just putting notes together.
Amazing, brilliant. So when you left the Scorpions, you joined UFO, and if I'm right, forgive me if my research is wrong, but I think when you joined UFO originally, your English wasn't maybe as good as it was today.
Zero English.
So how challenging was that to actually write songs with Phil Mogg and the rest of the band when you were learning English as well?
It was the best that could have happened to us, because it really came down to let the music do the talking.
Yeah.
No talking, no joking. They did their jokes. I never understood a thing. So I was always focused on putting things together and then show them, to the rest of the guys. Oh, that sounds great. Let's do it. And so I was always the one that kept the musical part together.
Yeah, sure. And as a first album, obviously, Phenomenon included 2 songs that have moved on to be legendary. And I apologise, you've been asked this a million times, but when you'd finished writing the 2, Dr. Doctor and Rock Bottom, did you know inside you that they were going to be such big songs? Did you have a feeling that they were really good songs that were going to become epics, if you like?
I never knew anything. I just write, I just have fun, I do without expectation, and everything that happened. I mean, it's quite amazing that Dr. and Rock Bottom was on the very first UFO album when I was still a teenager, developing still, and actually started developing on Lonesome Crow with the Scorpions. There's one lead break on In Search of the Peace of Mind that's so perfect I would never change a note 1,000 years. I don't know where it came from. But on the rest of the album, you can hear I'm an amateur, I'm a kid, I'm developing. And so every time I just write, I discovered the inner spring, the infinite inner spring of creativity. I always wanted, of course, there was Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page and all of those great guitarists that inspired me. But why should I do what they do? At some point I realized, I want to be Michael Schenker. I want to do something fresh. I want to do something that nobody else is doing. And that's what I did. And that's when Kirk Hammett told me, Michael, that was so attractive to hear that you did something that nobody was doing, and actually Dave Mustaine, he was telling me the same thing.
Yeah.
But I never knew anything, what an impact I had on those guys until later. And that was good that I never knew, because I don't look right or left. I just focus on what I'm doing and love and enjoy doing. And so it was just, what was the question?
We were talking about the two songs, Dr. and Rock Bottom.
And so basically, I mean, any song I write, I never know if people like it or not.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just happens by itself.
Yeah, sure. You've just mentioned two people that have cited you as a major influence in Kirk Hammett and Dave Mustaine. I know that you've already said that you're not interested in how other people see you, but it must give you a warm glow to know that so many big musicians these days started off listening to you and taking their inspiration from you.
Well, I was actually shocked finding out that I am actually, somebody said I'm old school, and I'm just realizing I actually created a new school. The thing is, if you listen to UFO, you take away Phil Mock's voice, you can hear a lot of metal that was different to what there was before.
Yeah.
And that inspired them, Slash and Kirk and so on. And I was ask the question again.
I was just wondering, a lot of people have said that you are their hero, their inspiration. I wondered how it made you feel.
Yeah. And so basically I never looked for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
When I heard it, when I actually found out in the 90s and 2000 and later, and now, what an impact I had. That's why I'm saying I'm not old school. I'm actually a creator of a new school, because, I just in my interviews I'm doing, for this album,
yeah,
I get so much information about the impact I had, and Markus Steiger, the head of Nuclear Blast, when I joined, he told me that, Michael, if you would have never been, he would have never been, and Nuclear Blast would have never been, and he would have never played thrash metal. There would have never been a thrash metal.
Yeah.
And I said, what? And I was absolutely amazed.
Yeah.
And then I do tons of Australian interviews right now. Never been to Australia, but all of a sudden I'm doing tons of Australian interviews. and a few of them said to me, Michael, if you wouldn't have been thrash metal, death metal, and all of that, metal would have never existed.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's what Megadeth said to that's what Dave Mustaine said to me, and Kirk, and so I must actually say that I am actually not old school, but I actually created a new school.
Yeah, I could see that. Mike, the first time I saw you was a long time ago, in 1983, when you played in Cardiff on the Built to Destroy tour. I've seen you many times since. One of the things I always like about watching you and your band is that you always play with a smile on your face. And you always seem to be having a good time when you're playing. I'm assuming that playing live is one of the things that really makes you happy?
It's all part of the whole thing, I mean, if you're in a studio, starting from writing music, it makes me happy. And then going in the recording studio, creating, building a house makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And then going on the road and presenting it to the audience makes me happy, and so it's all together.
Sure. From what I've read, you've said quite clearly you don't listen to a lot of music, so you've managed to work with a lot of very good, excellent musicians and vocalists, and the new album, which is excellent, you have again new people and some old faces back in the lineup. How do you manage to get people that are going to work with you well if you don't know who they are or you don't listen to music? Who do you draw from?
I don't manage. It just happens. If you hear the story how I got to this album, it's absolutely amazing. Because in 2019 I realized that the 50th anniversary was coming up, 2020 release, and I wanted to celebrate this with musicians, French musicians, but it was dragging on, and at some point, it's really hard to put musicians together worldwide and organize it all, and so I felt like I lost the timing for a 2020 release. Then my agent said to me, but Michael, the album Lonesome Crow Scorpions came out in 72, and so I said, so I have 2 years to get it all back together. So I decided, so I had hope again, but this time I said to myself, Michael, you better put together a compact band, and just put together a humble 50th anniversary. That's all I wanted to do. So I asked Ronnie Romero if he wanted to sing all the songs, because he was singing on We Are the Voice already for the Resurrection Michael Schenker Fest album. Yeah. So, so he was a great choice. And Bodo Schopf, fantastic drummer, he was on board already anyway. Steve Mann, keyboard player also. Barry Sparks kept emailing me, Michael, I want to be your bass player. I said, you got it. And so I had a band, And so I started, I went on in early 2020, I went on the 70,000 tons of metal cruise. Right. And when I came back, I went to a Miami hotel for 4 days. I started writing in early 2020. And then I went to the UK, finished my process. And then I saw I was ready to go. And I saw on the TV that there was a problem. And that was the virus, And so I was trying to, I was checking on my route that I usually take. I have a safety car, like the Mercedes AMG GT, a safety car they use for racing. And it's a really small trunk, but it is enough space for an amplifier, for a couple of guitars and some clothes. Yeah. And I usually go Eurochannel, France, Belgium, Holland, and then make a 2 Michael Frost co-producer recording studio. Right. And but I couldn't go this way because everything was locked and blocked, and it was I had to look for a new route. So we discovered away to go to Harwich, go on a boat, sleep 7 hours, 8 hours. Then Holland wasn't a problem at the time.
Yeah.
And then I finally made it to the recording studio, put down my compositions, and then it was time for Ronnie to sing, you know. So we called up Ronnie, are you ready? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't. I think he lives in Bulgaria. Everything is blocked. I can't go on 14 days quarantine. I can't afford, I have commitments. Okay, Ronnie, don't worry. We call you back. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
And so Amy, my partner, she's a bass player, and she has a very good taste, and she's a music consumer. And I said to her, we are stuck. Like Ronnie can't, you know, the virus. This is crazy. Do you have an idea for a singer? And she said, well, Ralph Shippers. I said, okay, I trust you. I said to Michael Frost, what do you think of Ralph Shippers? He said, absolutely. The next day they were recording. Then they recorded another song.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And then at the same time, Brian Tichy,
yeah,
one of the best drummers in the world, Ozzy and Whitesnake, etc., Michael Schenker fan. He said he heard about the 50th anniversary. He's offering 6 drum tracks as a contribution. I said, what? I mean, and then he called back Michael Frost again and said, a buddy of mine, Derek Sheranian,
yeah,
he also is a fan. He wants to make a contribution. And I said to Michael Frost, what are we going to do with a guy like him? I mean, I've never heard him play. I know he was Dream Theater,
yeah,
and he's a top 10 keyboard player, a heavy duty. And I said, what are we going to do with him? Because I purposely put all my guitars down myself this time, because it's the Michael Schenker's 50th anniversary, and I just wanted to keep it all more guitar-oriented and just have Steve Mann put a bit of coloring in it,
yeah,
which he's very good at, and to make it like, you know, just little sprinkles, and you don't really hear there's keyboards there. But he agreed, and then I said to Michael Frost, what are we going to do with a heavy-duty keyboard player like Derek? He said, why don't you have a keyboard guitar jam? Keyboard guitar jam? I've never done that before. He said, well, you know, it's your 50th anniversary, maybe something fresh, something new, something exciting, you know, something additional you have never done after 50 years. And I said to him, you mean like John Lord and Richie Blackmore? He said, yeah, why not? I said, you know, you're right. You know, I think this is a great idea. You know, when it was all put together and I heard Ralph Shippers' vocal, I was blown away. I never knew there was a vocal like that. I mean, it was unbelievable. And then Tichy playing and Derek doing the jam with me, and it became Drill to Kill.
Yeah.
I was absolutely shocked. Honestly, I was shocked. I mean, I could have never put anything like that together myself, which I tried, you know, in 2019. So what I tried in 2019, putting together a comp, which didn't work out, putting together a compact band. Yeah. Now the virus comes and completely redirects everything towards the direction I wanted it in the first place. But this time I didn't have to do anything. The phone calls were coming in. It was unbelievable. And so it was 2 songs less for Ronnie. So we call Ronnie again. Ronnie, are you ready? I'm sorry, still locked in here. I can't go on 14 days quarantine. I'm sorry. Okay, don't worry. We call you back. I said to Michael Frost, what can we do now? And he said, like, what do you think of Jolene Turner? I said, Jolene Turner, one of my favorites. I'm a fan. He's a fan.
Yeah.
Do we have a connection to him? He said, absolutely. The next day they were recording and another song. So that was 4 songs less for Ronnie Romero.
Wow.
I went like, wow, what is going on here? And then I came back from the hotel one morning. I did one of the compositions I did was a power ballad. Never did a power ballad like that before.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it came from. It just showed up in my writing. And Michael Voss, who always writes a B plan for singers, he's a co-producer after all, and a producer, and he always writes a B plan, for melodies and lyrics, just in case a singer gets stuck and needs some help. And he said, Michael, this is what I did last night to your power ballad. And I listened to it. I said, Michael, this is so beautiful. Only you can sing this song. I mean, this is unbelievable. And then there was a song called "The Queen of Thorns and Roses," which was an unusual song. And what Michael first did to it was so perfect. I said, Michael, you have to take those two songs. You have to sing those two songs. And that was 4 songs less for Ronnie. And actually 6 songs less for Ronnie.
Yeah.
And then eventually Ronnie was available, and of course he did a fantastic job, Night of the Dead and Sail the Darkness and Come On Over, In Search of the Peace of Mind. And then also there's a bonus track which we may use for, which is an 11th song nobody has heard, as far as I know. And we want to use as a single or as a tour promotion song, and it's also sung by Ronnie and Brian Titchell playing drums, and so it's going to be another surprise coming up later down the road, and so eventually we ended up. And then Simon Phillips came in, we ended up with a fantastic drumming on In Search of the Peace of Mind, and the other song, Don't Die on Me Now, I mean, fantastic. And so, so it came to this song In Search of the Peace of Mind, which had to be my celebration song, the 50th anniversary of celebration song, because I was only 15 years old when I wrote the music to In Search of the Peace of Mind. There was nobody there. I was in my mother's kitchen. I did it all by myself. Rudolph can't even play that song because it involves double picking. And Michael Voss sent me the original credits of the Lonesome Crow Scorpions album. And it says Michael Schenker lyrics, Rudolph Schenker lyrics. And Michael Schenker and Rudolph Schenker had zero knowledge of English. How could we have written any lyrics? A complete misinformation. Should have said Michael Schenker music and whoever did the lyrics, And so they basically, I was only 15, they're 21, they're already businessmen, I'm still the kid in the sandbox. I mean, can you imagine a 3-year-old kid and a 10-year-old? That's the difference between Rudolph and me, if you look at size. Sure. So always a step ahead, and he's more of a manager than a musician anyway. He's a calculator, manipulator, and he's looking for fame and for being rich and wanting to be Rolling Stones and wanting to be the Beatles or whatever. But I never had that wish. I just wanted to be an artist. And so I never looked around, realizing, actually, throughout my whole career, I never realized I was getting ripped off left and right. But it didn't matter because I had everything I wanted, which was my inner self. And so, where was I?
So you're talking about In Search of the Peace of Mind, yeah?
Yeah. So that song had to become the celebration song, for various different reasons. It was the very first composition I ever, musical composition I ever wrote, and at the age of 15. Yeah. And it was also the first note I put on a record. Yeah. On the Lonesome Crow Scorpions album when I was 15 years old, and the title "In Search of the Peace of Mind" has become the theme of my life, looking for fulfillment, peace, and contentment, etc., etc. Yeah. So that was also a lead break, original version, as a 15-year-old. That was so perfect. I would never. Today, I would never change a note. Like "Stairway to Heaven" or "The Theme of the Imaginary Wasteland" by Leslie West. You never change a note. It's perfect forever. And but I couldn't understand where it came from, because you can hear on the rest of Lonesome Crow Scorpions album, the original version, that I am developing. I'm a teenager, 15 years old. I'm just an amateur. I'm
Yeah.
developing,
Yeah.
But where did this lead break come from? What happened? What happened? I could never figure out. Actually, I didn't even realize that much when I was that age, But later, especially now, um, when I listen to it, I mean, it is so perfect. Anyway, I don't know where it came from. So for all of these reasons, it had to become, the celebration song. And I wanted to make it special. And so I added guitar on the end.
Yeah.
And to make it dramatic, I used the howler, the wah pedal, and I used low bending strings and lots of emotions, sweet emotions, and I mean, any emotions that you go through life, as possible, and so when I listened back to it, it sounded like an inner conversation, like we all have inner conversations, making choices. Shall I go this way? Shall I go that way? Shall I sell out? Shall I go rich? Shall I be an artist or whatever?
Yeah.
So we always have to make choices, and so when I listened back to the end solo, I went like, man, that sounds like an inner conversation between two guitars, expressing my 50 years journey on lead guitar, answering question and drama and different emotions and so when all of that, when the album, and then of course, and then it wasn't finished. Then I asked Gary Barn, because he has such a beautiful, low voice, like a man, vibrato and warm sounding, lots of feeling for the first verse of In Search of the Peace of Mind. He said, "Of course, Mike, I'll do that for you for a 50 years anniversary contribution." I said, "Thank you," and then Ronnie was singing the second verse when it gets higher, and then I had another idea and said to Michael Voss, "What do you think if we ask Wayne Bonnet and Dougie White and Robin McCauley just to make a little contribution to the 50th and go like, and I try,
Yeah.
And so yeah, great idea. We'll ask them, and they said, of course we do that for you, and they did.
Brilliant.
And so I tell you, I mean, that song became so complete. I mean, in the end, you know what I could not put together in 2019, put together a compact band. The virus completely redirected everything, and it ended up the way I wanted it, but so much better than I could ever done by myself. Basically, I just had to be myself and just keep going and deal with the now based on the circumstances.
Yeah.
And it directed me to a place that was so incredible. I felt like it was a gift from heaven, telling me, Michael, this is what we give to you for staying true to yourself for 50 years. And that's what we give you. I mean, I had to say no to Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne. I love Ozzy Osbourne. I had to decline. I love, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple. I love those bands. I had to decline Deep Purple. I had to decline Ian Hunter. I mean, Phil Lynott.
Yeah.
So many bands, just to live my middle years and do acoustic instrumentals and experiment as an artist and do electric instrumentals and do cover versions with fantastic musicians. And so without that middle years experiment following my vision, I would have never been happy today, And so that gave me that, that was the important part, the middle years. And then, in 2007, 2008, I became 16 years old again. I said to myself, I became 16, 18, 20. I said, Michael, you have done everything you wanted to do now. You just move on freely, whatever you wanted, And so I wanted to go back to the roots, like I said. I put so much metal music into into UFO. If you take Phil Mock's voice away, who's not a metal singer, you can hear a lot of metal guitar. That's what inspired Dave Mustaine and Kirk Hammett and so on. And sometimes I just realize now when people say Michael Schenker old school, no, I am the creator of the new school. The I don't know if I told you that before, but Nuclear Blast, Markus Steiger, the founder, he told me if I wouldn't have been, he would have never been. Nuclear Blast would have never been. Thrash metal, he would have never played thrash metal. Thrash metal would have never even existed. Dave Mustaine told me the same thing, and so on. And then I had Australian interviews, and they said, Michael, if you wouldn't have been, thrash metal and death metal and all of that would have never existed. So I must say, what are people talking about when they say old school? If anything, I created a new trend in the 80s, and then I created another trend, which became the thrash and death metal scene, which they are telling me. That's what I did for them, and brilliant. So, and because I'm just working from the inside out, it can never be old school because it comes from the infinite spring of creativity that's endless, like a tropical ocean. Every fish has a different color. You even look at dogs; every dog looks different. If you look at nature, it's endless. We're still discovering things that we haven't known about, so that's what the inside of ourselves looks like. So if we make the decision to go there, that's how you can inject freshness into the existing trend and world. And so that's what I did, and that's why I was recognized and actually ended up being, the Flying V came to me. I never looked for the Flying V. I'm not a window shopper. I don't look for beauty. I'm an artist, and my guitar, I was playing a Les Paul that was locked up. I had a gig with the Scorpions, so I had to play the Flying V. And I discovered immediately what the Flying V was doing to me, practically, not as a look. I was absolutely not interested in the look, but to put the guitar between my legs and creating a heavy vibrato, that was such a big deal. I explained that to Kirk Hammett. He said to me, "Get out of here." I said, like, no, honestly, it just happened by accident. Because of that, and the position of, like some people told me, I look like I'm going to the toilet, because of the crooked position.
Yeah.
But it became my icon. I never planned to look like that. But people were attracted by it because it was also unusual. Yeah,
sure. I appreciate that. And thank you for giving me such a detailed breakdown of how the album came about, because it is a fabulous album, and In Search of the Peace of Mind has always been one of my favourite Scorpions songs, so it's lovely to hear it, I suppose, completing your peace of mind now on this album. It's a beautiful piece of work.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a fantastic ending.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's just fulfilling.
Brilliant. My final couple of questions, my final question, because I know we don't have a huge amount of time and you are doing a lot of these interviews. I just wanted to ask you something a little bit more light-hearted. You, over the past 10, 15 years, have moved into different kinds of headwear, and you are now wearing quite a big hat. Are you planning to get a bigger hat after this one, or is this the biggest you're going to wear?
That is funny. That's funny. I tell you, it's all based on circumstances.
Yeah.
It's like I used to use a hat. I love hats.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, and the thing is, it all happens based on circumstances. I used to wear a hat with something in front until I discovered that I was bumping into low ceilings and it was dangerous. And so I decided just to put a cap on. And I love that hat because it's just somehow it's just kind of fashion, you know, like you design something for yourself that you feel like that you know it goes with my hair. You make the best out of things that you have, you know, and putting the hat on, you know, with the glasses and everything else, it just became like. I don't know. It started somewhere. 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, the hat thing. If you remember, when I did the 30th anniversary,
I do.
5 years with Simon Phillips.
Yeah.
You know, live. I had no hat on. You know, I don't have a reason to have a hat on. You know, I have hair. I don't. It's not in our family tree to be bald, you know. I mean, nobody is bald, so I don't have to hide it. But I just feel like it creates some kind of a look that I like.
Yeah,
and that's the reason. That's
all you need, absolutely. Whereas I wear a hat to keep my head warm because there is no hair there, but that's a different story. Michael, it's been an absolute honour to speak to you. You've been a hero of mine for a long time. I wish you all the luck in the world with the album. You won't need it because it's a brilliant album. But thank you very much for your time. A pleasure to speak to you.
Thank you so much, and keep on rocking.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.